It's 18 seasons at the helm, and only 3 of them were losing. Unfortunately, 2 of them came in the last 3 years. John Mozeliak is officially finished as the president of the St. Louis Cardinals. And in one of his last interviews, he came by Channel 5 for a Sports Plus visit. And it's a pleasure to welcome John Mozeliak. Here is the best stats surrounding your career. Since opening day 2011, Cardinals have played 2,300 out of a possible 2,322 games while in playoff contention. That is a staggering stat. What do you think when you hear that?
I take a lot of pride in it. Obviously, every year in the offseason, you're trying to build a club to get to October, and you're trying to position yourself to be competitive year in and year out. And, you know, I think back over the time I've been with the Cardinals, and our main goal was always to put a competitive team on that field. And look, I think, like, obviously the last couple of years haven't gone quite as well as we had hoped, but you know, you look back at that time, and there were a lot of years we were a very, very good baseball team.
Let me get a big picture of baseball thought, the economic landscape and the implications for the future and how it affects a middle market team like the Cardinals. What do you see?
Yeah, I think for clarity, I think we're a small market team. I think for the last 3 decades, we've tried to punch above our weight, and we were able to do that because we had enormous attendance, or very successful attendance, and we had a good TV deal. And what's happened in recent years is attendance has gone down, and our TV contract is not what it once was. So those are 2 major factors in kind of what we're competing against. And I think the next generation, in terms of like Heim and his team, Billy and his group, you know, it's going to be challenging for those guys as they look to figure out how to get back to where we once were.
So with that said, what was the back and forth like with you and Bill DeWitt Jr. this past offseason in terms of you knowing you probably need a few pieces to win and you're going to have to spend, but with these economic limitations?
Yeah, so if you recall last October when we sat down with the media,
yeah,
we made it very clear that there were going to be some financial constraints, and so there was a payroll reduction. We also went in with the strategy of trying to trade one of our players, and you know, had we done that, I think that would have given us some other flexibility to maybe add some pieces to the team. We weren't able to do that, and so unfortunately, the team that we were trying to build, we weren't able to do so, but we still had a lot of young players. We wanted to give them that opportunity to see what they could do. And, you know, I think over the course of this 162, you're seeing that some of these guys have made steps forward. Some have kind of stayed more neutral, and some maybe have taken a step back, but at least we have more insights on what these guys look like.
I would think the most devastating thing that happened to you in your tenure is the death of Oscar Taveras. First, the tragic death of a 22-year-old guy, but then the way you had to pivot. You would not had to have traded Sandy Alcantara and Zach Gallen for Marcell Ozuna if you have Oscar Taveras in your outfield, right?
Yeah, I do think back to that time, and when you talk about developing someone that can just like plug and play in that 2, 3, or 4 hole, that's what we envisioned. And yeah, I think that really changed our trajectory and really the direction we had to go.
See if you agree with this. Your best trade was Matt Holliday. Your most important trade was Kobe Rasmus for the 3 pitchers that helped you win a world championship.
I definitely would agree. I'd have to think of like best trade. Obviously, Matt, I think, was, again, like that middle of the order type bat that we were trying to look for. And we were going down that path because we didn't know what was going to happen with Albert Pujols at the time. So that made a lot of sense, and I think it was logical, and it worked. And then, you know, clearly the Rasmus deal was a difficult trade for all of us just because of we thought he had a lot of upside, but in hindsight, it worked out perfectly for us. And the people we got, the players we got in return, really helped springboard us to the World Championship.
What was the backstory on the Randy Arozarena for Matthew Liberatore trade? Take us through that time frame.
Probably where the fan base can say, like, well, what were your options here? And you know, the real story behind it was we could have either done Tyler O'Neill or we could have done Arozarena. We ended up going with Randy. At that time, Tyler looked like he could do everything, and so we didn't want to trade him. Off-season trades can tend to be much more long-term, much more of a longer vision, and in that particular deal, it was playing for the long view. And I think in the end, Cardinals will be happy with having Matthew Liberatore, but I think we all recall some of Randy's exploits in the postseason were pretty painful to watch at times. So it's hard to get these right. And like what I tell people a lot, like if you're not making mistakes, it's probably because you're not trying enough. And so we do make mistakes.
Tell me about the whole Jordan Walker saga. There's a part of me thinking he's only 23, and a lot of guys haven't even started their careers at 23.
A couple things have to happen. He's going to have to learn plate discipline. He's going to have to learn his zone. And then I think fundamentally from an actual approach at the plate, meaning his swing, he's going to have to learn how to stay on the ball. And if he can do that, he can be special. And so like when you point out his age, for someone like me, I would not give up on him, but you need to see him make some fundamental changes by the time he gets to camp next year. And this can't be bring him into camp and let's work on things. This is take a couple weeks off, Jordan, and then we'll build you a curriculum and you need to follow it.
What about your scout hat with Nolan Gorman?
He has the strength to go the other way. He's strong enough to use the whole field, and yet he finds himself going down that vortex of I'm going to pull, I'm going to pull, I'm going to pull. And when you have that much swing and miss, I think at times it gets harder and harder to play him.
For most of your career, you pick later in the first round. You finally get an early pick in J.J. Weatherholt. What do you see there?
So I think JJ's a special player. I think that the thing that makes him so unique is his bat-to-ball skills. But the other thing that makes him so impressive is I think second, short, or third are all options for him. So the flexibility he will give the manager. Obviously, when you have that kind of talent, you'd like it to be at one position. But I think wherever they need to plug and play him, he will be above average at it.
What would you want somebody to say about your regime?
You mean my time,
Yeah.
like my legacy? I hope, like the public looks at it as it was a success, meaning we won a lot of baseball games, we brought championships here, and that was important. I think from the people I worked with, I hope they say he'll be missed.
Thanks for all you've done, sir.
Thank you
so
Frank.
much.
Pleasure.
All right, that is John Mozeliak. We'll take a short time out, and Sports Plus will continue right after this.